If your grocery bill feels heavier than it used to, that is not your imagination, and it is not a personal failure. Most people are not overspending because they lack discipline. They are walking into a system carefully designed to make ordinary food feel urgent, convenient, healthy, premium, and somehow worth far more than it should be. That is how stores protect their margins while households lose control of their money a few dollars at a time. The average household throws away well over $1,500 a year on groceries that never truly delivered value. Not because people are careless, but because the modern grocery store is built on frictionless overbuying. Higher food prices only make that worse. When prices rise, costly mistakes get harder to absorb, and the little traps become much more expensive. So in this video, we are going to walk through 12 grocery items and categories that quietly drain money through markups, packaging tricks, shelf psychology, and convenience taxes. Some of them look harmless, some look healthy, a few are sold as time savers. But once you see the pattern, you start shopping very differently. And that pattern matters. The smartest grocery choices usually share the same traits: long shelf life, low waste, flexible use, strong value per serving, and fewer opportunities for stores to mark them up. Once you notice that, a lot of expensive food starts to look strangely unnecessary. Start in produce, because this is where the convenience tax gets almost comical. Pre-cut fruit and vegetables look efficient. A little cup of watermelon, sliced pineapple, trimmed celery, chopped onions. It all feels like a helpful shortcut at exactly the moment you are tired and just want dinner to be easier. But the price difference is often absurd. A container of cut watermelon can sit right beside a whole watermelon for nearly double the price. Same fruit. Same store, same day. The only real difference is a few minutes with a knife. Across the produce section, pre-cut items often cost around 40% more, and sometimes far more than that. Stores defend this with labor and convenience. But the labor cost is usually tiny compared with the markup. You are not paying for skill. You are paying because the store knows convenience lowers resistance. And there is another problem. The moment produce is cut, it starts losing freshness faster. It dries out, oxidizes, and spoils sooner. So you often pay more for food that gives you less time to use it. The smarter move is simple. Buy whole produce and do one short prep session at home. 20 minutes once or twice a week changes the math completely. Or move to the frozen aisle, which is one of the least glamorous and most effective sections in the store. Frozen fruit and vegetables are picked at peak ripeness, already prepped, and can cost dramatically less than fresh pre-cut versions while lasting for months. That one switch gives you convenience without the waste, which is exactly the kind of pattern stores would rather you ignore. Now move to one of the strangest products in the entire building: bottled water. On the surface, it looks clean, simple, even responsible. But financially, it is one of the most extreme markup stories in retail. A bottle that may cost only a few cents to source, fill, and transport can sell for $1.50, $2, sometimes more. In some cases, that is a markup approaching 4,000%. And for what is often just filtered municipal water in plastic. Then there is the quality issue, which makes the premium even harder to justify. Recent university research found that bottled water may contain hundreds of thousands of microscopic plastic particles per liter, including nanoplastics too small to detect in earlier studies. That means many people are paying dramatically more for a product that can carry more plastic contamination than the tap water they are trying to avoid. This is where the grocery system relies on assumption. People assume bottled means better, safer, cleaner, more controlled. But very often, it just means more profitable. A decent home filter and a reusable bottle usually fix this problem immediately. One modest setup can replace a year of overpriced single-use bottles. Better yet, it gives you control over what you are actually drinking instead of paying a premium for branding, plastic, and convenience theater. And speaking of theater, very little in the grocery store is more carefully staged than the bakery. You know the smell. Warm bread, cookies, cinnamon, something buttery floating through the aisle just when your guard is down. It feels comforting and familiar, which is exactly why it works. Many large stores use scent marketing to push bakery sales because smell changes behavior. Shoppers linger longer. Impulse buying rises. In some tests, bakery sales have multiplied when fresh bread aroma is pumped into the space. That matters because bakery items carry excellent margins for the store. A muffin that sells for $4 may cost only a fraction of that to produce. And no, the value is not hidden in the magic of the display case. More often, it is hidden in your response to the atmosphere. Stores are not just selling a croissant. They are selling a mood at the exact point where decision-making gets weaker. There is also a quieter cost. Fresh bakery items usually have a very short useful life. Buy them with good intentions on Tuesday, and by Thursday they can be stale enough to regret. So this is another category where markup and waste often travel together. If you want the item, the day-old rack is often the rational place to look. Discounts of 30% to 50% are common, and many products are still perfectly good. Or buy a basic mix and make it at home for a fraction of the cost. Once you realize the bakery is often a scent-triggered profit center, it becomes much easier to enjoy it occasionally without letting it direct your cart. The spice aisle looks innocent, but it may be one of the most overpriced shelves in the store. Tiny glass bottles, clean labels, familiar brands. $3 or $4 here, another $4 there, and suddenly you have spent the cost of a full meal on powders that may barely taste like anything. Name brand spices routinely carry huge markups, often 100% or more compared with better alternatives. In some cases, the difference is downright ridiculous. The same amount of oregano or cumin can cost several times more in a standard grocery store than in an Indian, Middle Eastern, Asian, or bulk market. And freshness matters here too. Spices lose potency over time, yet grocery shelves often hold slow-moving inventory for months, sometimes longer. That means the premium bottle you buy may already be stale. You are paying more for branding and packaging while getting less flavor. Ethnic markets often solve both problems at once. Their inventory turns faster, the prices are lower, and the selection is usually better. If you want one habit that improves both cost control and cooking quality, this is a strong candidate. Skip the expensive branded aisle whenever you can. Buy from a store that treats spices as everyday cooking staples rather than premium accessories. Better yet, buy whole spices when practical and grind or crush them as needed. They last longer, taste stronger, and fit the same pattern we keep seeing. More useful life, less waste, lower cost per use. Organic food is where confusion gets expensive. The word itself creates a kind of moral pressure in the store. People feel that buying organic must always be the responsible choice, and if they do not, they are cutting corners. But that all-or-nothing mindset is exactly what creates overspending. Organic can matter. It just does not matter equally across everything in your cart. This is where the dirty dozen and clean 15 approach becomes useful, not as ideology but as a filter for better decisions. Some produce items like strawberries, spinach, and kale are more likely to carry heavier pesticide residue in conventional form. Others, like avocados, sweet corn, and pineapple, tend to show very low residue even when conventionally grown. Yet many shoppers pay the organic premium across the board, including for foods where the difference is minimal. That premium is not small. Organic items often run about 20% higher on average and sometimes much more. So if you buy organic selectively instead of emotionally, you can cut a meaningful portion of your grocery cost without losing the protection you were actually trying to buy. That is the key. Not buying less carefully, but buying more precisely. By now, you are probably noticing a pattern. The expensive grocery traps usually sell one of three things: convenience, identity, or reassurance. And the moment a product promises all three at once, the markup tends to climb. Think about your last few grocery trips. How many times did the higher-priced options seem to offer peace of mind more than real value? Once you start seeing that pattern, your shopping gets calmer. And calm shoppers are much harder to manipulate. That brings us to single-serve snacks, one of the most reliable ways families lose control of grocery spending without realizing it. The boxes look organized, portable, lunch-ready, Efficient. Tiny bags of crackers, pretzels, cookies, chips. They feel manageable, especially if you are shopping for kids or trying to keep portions in check. But the price per ounce is often brutal. A standard example tells the story. A family-size bag of crackers may cost around $4.50 for roughly 30 ounces. A multi-pack of the exact same crackers in small bags can cost nearly double while giving you a third of the food. On a per-ounce basis, that can mean several 100% more just for repackaging. Same product, smaller bag, much higher cost. And the packaging waste is part of the business model too. More wrappers, more air, more boxes, more visual convenience. Families can easily spend hundreds more per year on snacks this way, often without noticing because the purchases are scattered across many trips. The better system is not complicated. Buy the large package, portion it into reusable containers or bags once a week, and move on. You get the same convenience after a few minutes of setup, but with far lower cost and far less trash. Again, the winning foods are the ones that are flexible, easy to store, and not charged at a premium every time someone touches them first. The meat department has its own version of the convenience tax, and it usually appears in bright, glossy trays of pre-marinated meat. Honey garlic chicken, teriyaki thighs, bourbon steak tips. They are designed to look like dinner solved. And after a long day, that is a very persuasive idea. But the math is not kind. Pre-marinated meat often sells for up to 60% more per pound than the plain version sitting right beside it. That extra cost is rarely about better meat. It is usually about a cheap marinade, added sodium, and a polished presentation. A plain chicken breast at $4.99 a pound becomes $7.99 with sauce. The marinade itself may have cost the store well under $1 per package. And many of these products are loaded with salt, sometimes 700 or 800 milligrams per serving, because sodium is inexpensive, flavorful, and helps preserve the product. There is another reason to be cautious. Strong marinades and heavy seasoning can make aging meat easier to sell. That does not mean every tray is a problem, but it does mean the bright color and bold flavor are not always there for your benefit. A homemade marinade takes about 3 minutes. Oil, acid, seasoning, maybe a little soy sauce or garlic. Then you control the flavor, the sodium, and the cost. This is one of the easiest swaps in the store, and one of the clearest examples of paying a premium for work you can do yourself in less time than it takes to compare labels. The health food aisle has a softer voice, but it can be just as expensive. Tiny bags of so-called superfoods are a perfect example. Goji berries, maca powder, cacao nibs, exotic seeds in minimalist packaging with words like ancient, clean, energizing, or nutrient-dense. The visual message is elegant. The pricing is not. A small pouch can cost $10, $12, even $18, while ordinary foods with similar nutritional value sit nearby for a fraction of the cost. The word superfood itself is largely a marketing term. It is not a tightly regulated scientific category, and that flexibility allows companies to turn ordinary nutrition into premium identity. A bag of goji berries can cost more than $25 a pound, while blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, and frozen mixed berries often provide excellent nutritional value at a small fraction of that price. This does not mean those products are useless. It means they are rarely magical. The real nutritional workhorses are usually boring by comparison. Beans, oats, eggs, frozen berries, sweet potatoes, spinach, plain yogurt, nuts, seeds. Foods with broad use, reasonable cost, decent shelf life, and consistent value. In other words, foods that support a grocery system instead of acting like luxury accessories. Once you separate nutrition from branding, a lot of high-priced wellness products lose their charm very quickly. Then we get to one of the easiest daily leaks in the modern food budget: energy drinks and specialty coffee. These purchases feel small, familiar, and deserved. A can here, a cold brew there, a flavored coffee on the way home. But done a few times a week, they quietly become one of the most expensive habits in the entire grocery cycle. An energy drink at $3 or $3.50 and a coffee shop drink at $5 may not feel dramatic in isolation. Together, bought 3 times a week, they can push past $1,300 a year. For many people, the real total is higher, and the markup is extraordinary. Brewed at home, coffee can cost pennies per cup. Bought prepared, it can cost 20, 30, even 50 times more depending on the drink. Then there is the ingredient problem. Many energy drinks carry huge sugar loads, sometimes enough to exceed a day's recommended intake in one can. Others rely on wellness-style packaging to make a stimulant product look like a health decision. Added vitamins do not change the basic economics, and they certainly do not justify premium pricing for liquid sugar and caffeine. The better alternative is not necessarily giving up coffee. It is reclaiming control over how you buy it. Make cold brew at home. Brew a pot. Use a travel cup. Keep tea on hand. Drink water first. The point is not austerity. It is refusing to pay luxury pricing for routine energy. Grocery stores and coffee chains count on people doing this math only once, if ever. Yogurt is another category where packaging quietly distorts reality. Individual cups look practical, especially for breakfast or lunch. They are neat, portable, and feel portion-controlled. But that convenience comes at a steep price. The same yogurt sold in a large tub often costs half as much per pound, sometimes less than half, compared with the single-serve version. If you buy 1 cup a day, the yearly difference becomes meaningful very quickly. What feels like a harmless preference can turn into a few $100s a year in extra spending for the same food. And, as with snack packs, the added packaging multiplies the waste. More plastic, more foil tops, more cardboard sleeves, more money spent on tiny containers instead of the product itself. This is another place where the solution is almost annoyingly simple. Buy the large tub, portion it into reusable jars or small containers. Add fruit, nuts, or oats yourself if you want variety. You end up with the same grab-and-go usefulness, but with much better cost control. And because large tubs tend to move faster, you may even get a fresher product. This is one of those categories where the store makes a routine food feel specialized, when in reality it is just yogurt with expensive packaging. And finally, specialty diet foods. Keto bars, paleo crackers, Whole30 sauces, gluten-free cookies marketed to people who are not medically gluten-sensitive. This is where ordinary ingredients get wrapped in identity and sold back at premium prices. And because the packaging often signals discipline or health consciousness, people become less price-sensitive. The markup can be stunning. A jar of peanut butter labeled keto may cost 3 times more than a standard natural peanut butter with the exact same ingredients: peanuts and salt. A trendy cracker made from almond flour and seasoning gets packaged like a breakthrough instead of a recipe. This is one of the fastest-growing corners of the food market because it combines two powerful forces: aspiration and confusion. The truth is simpler than the label. Most eating frameworks do not require specialty products. Keto can be built from eggs, meat, cheese, non-starchy vegetables, nuts. Paleo can be built from meat, fruit, vegetables, seeds. Even many gluten-free shoppers are better served by starting with naturally gluten-free basics like rice, potatoes, beans, eggs, and produce rather than expensive processed replacements. The question that protects you here is straightforward. Am I buying a useful food, or am I buying compliance packaging? If the ingredient list looks ordinary and the price does not, that is usually your answer. Read labels. Compare ingredients. Strip away the branding. Stores and food companies can charge premium prices for identity far more easily than they can for raw usefulness. And when you step back, the full pattern becomes hard to miss. The most expensive grocery traps are usually fragile, heavily packaged, highly marketed, or lightly altered versions of cheaper foods. They spoil faster, cost more per serving, and create the illusion that someone else has solved a problem for you. The better choices tend to be the opposite: whole produce instead of pre-cut, filtered water instead of bottled, bulk instead of single-serve, plain meat instead of pre-marinated, store-smart spices instead of branded dust. Selective organic, not automatic organic. Basic foods, not wellness theater. That is what real control looks like in a grocery store. Not restriction, not guilt, not perfect discipline. Just seeing the pricing logic clearly enough that it stops working on you. Once that happens, the store layout still exists, the labels still make promises, the bakery still smells suspiciously persuasive, but your money stops moving so easily. And that is the shift that matters. You do not need to become extreme. You do not need to give up everything convenient or enjoyable. You just need to recognize which products are built to feed you and which are built to train you into overpaying. That awareness alone changes the cart. If this helped you think differently about your grocery spending and feel more in control the next time you shop, consider subscribing.